This is Kotobukijake, flying solo today. I'm here via Septum Sin versus the World. My friend Septum has been encouraging me to do some of my own videos, and I've honestly recorded this one before and I didn't like how it went. So if you're kind of wondering why it looks like this might be a newer video than one of the ones that's going to be posted soon, it's because it is. But whatever, just go with it. But I'm going to try, as I mentioned, I can't remember if the video there I said this already went up or not. Septum and I did several videos this past week where we mentioned a couple things with the channel. One of them was I was going to do some new videos solo, and I've actually got a couple of different types of reviews to start with. And the first one I'm going to do is going to be a movie review. And as I said before, I know Septum does a lot of reviews. If y'all think this is a little bit too redundant, by all means, let us know. But it's always also fun to hear different, I think, at least, it's fun to hear what different people's review styles, takes on things can be. And for the first one I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a movie I revisited a couple weeks ago. This is one of my very favorites. It's Maverick. Okay, Richard Donner film from the May 1994. Stars, of course, your main guys. You got Mel Gibson as Brett Maverick, Jodie Foster as Annabelle Bransford, and James Garner as Zane Cooper. And it is based on the Maverick TV series, which, if you see right there, I have the first 2 seasons, and that also featured James Garner in the title role. If I understand correctly, he was in it for 3 seasons, and then season 4, this other dude who was his brother, played his brother, took over as the main character, and I think the show was gone after 4 seasons. I've actually only seen very little bit. There were some TV movies, and I think I've seen a couple of those. I really want to get to that show one of these days, but it's an M, so who knows when I'll get to it. But the movie has always been a favorite of mine. And it is a decently rated film if you ask audiences. IMDb has it as a 7.0 rating, which is pretty respectable for a comedy from the early 90s. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it was never a favorite of the critics. And a lot of reviewers, it just kind of gets left off a lot when people talk about TV to movie adaptations or whatever. It gets left off these lists, and I'm like, but why? Strangely enough, of the 3 total award nominations for the movies, it did have 1 win, an ASCAP award, because the soundtrack, you kind of got to get into country to fully appreciate it, but at the time that the movie came out, and this is one of the reasons why I liked it, I think, I was real big into country at the time. And for country fans, this soundtrack rocks. It's awesome. It has a great original song by Randy Newman called Ride Gambler Ride. Vince Gill's take on the band's Ophelia. And some of the songs that were in a great Maverick choir version of Amazing. Sing God's praise, and when we first begun. There's tons of people in it. And then you had at least 2 songs prominently featured during the big poker tournament in the film. Tracy Lawrence's number called Renegades, Rebels, and Rogues, which I want to say might have also been original. And one of my all-time favorite Clint Black songs, A Good Run of Bad Luck.
I bet it all on a good run of bad luck. 7 come 11, and she could be mine. Lucky a lady, and I'm gonna find love coming on the bottom line.
And Mr. Black himself has a recurring cameo in that portion of the film that culminates in a pretty notable scene. But anyway, back to basics here. Like I said, Richard Donner film came out about the middle of his run doing Lethal Weapon. And it was a whole different creature than Lethal Weapon. And personally, I've always liked Maverick better. It was my favorite film for several years. Lethal Weapon films, I like them. They're good. But basically, you've also got, it was written by William Goldman. He who wrote 2 Oscar-winning films, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and All the President's Men, and also wrote one of the greatest screenplays ever written based on his own book, The Princess Bride. And he and Rob Reiner got on so well that he also wrote the screenplay for Reiner's film Misery a couple years later. So Mr. Goldman needs a little more love than he's gotten, and I can't believe he didn't get more from Maverick. He just did so good. But strangely enough, there was one Oscar nomination, and that was for costume design, which the costuming, the period costuming, is top notch. Good costuming. And this goes along with the Oscars' history of frequently having costume design nominees that get pretty much nothing else. So, one of the cool things about this is all the cameos. So many cameos. And I've already mentioned Clint Black. There's a lot of other country singers as well as a who's who of support of character actors and Western stars. You've got Vince and Janice Gill, who I still, to this day, have not figured out where they are in the movie. And 2 that I only recently found out were in it. They're uncredited, Reba McEntire and John Fogerty. But I still haven't found them. But you have prominent cameos by Waylon Jennings and Kathy Mattea, Margot Kidder, Robert Fuller, Carlene Carter, Lauren Schuler Donner, and Richard Donner both show up in there. Hal Ketchum, Corey Feldman, and Lethal Weapon star Danny Glover all show up in one scene, which is a total callback to Lethal Weapon, and it's great if you ever see that. Art LaFleur, Denver Pyle, Jeffrey Lewis, Dan Hedaya, Dub Taylor. And it's a show that I often liken Maverick to, and frankly, one of the reasons I love Maverick is this show had recently aired, and I was a big fan when it aired, so I guess I was primed for this sort of semi-serious Western. But The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., horribly short-lived, should have gone longer. Wonderful show. Bruce Campbell, one of his best works. 2 of the people in Briscoe County, Paul Breingar and Dennis Fimple, both showed up in Maverick. So that was kind of cool. And of course you got your stars, your main cast. You know, Mel Gibson has rarely been better. And yes, the dude may be crazy, but to this day, he can direct a film. Hacksaw Ridge was great. And he's still a tolerably good actor, but back in the day, he could act, and he was really good at Maverick, as Maverick. James Garner was he was great. He was a wonderful actor. And James Coburn, who plays the Commodore in this film, Coburn and Garner, sadly, are no longer with us, and a lot of the cameos, too, Waylon Jennings, Denver Powell, a lot of them have passed on. But Coburn and Garner work off each other wonderfully, but Garner, you know, in the other scenes with Maverick and Annabelle, just is great. And Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster is underrated as a comedic actress. I think most people know she's a wonderful dramatic actress. She has literally been doing it since she was a kid, and she is a wonderful actress. But she has hardly ever done comedy. And she's great. She nails it. She is Annabelle. She's spot on. It's one of her better roles. Of course, she and Gibson did sort of re-team in a film that she directed called The Beaver, which was more of a comedy, but horribly underseen film. I thought that was a good one. But it's, you know, this was a wonderful cast. Alfred Molina plays Angel. This was before he really had made a name for himself. He'd been around for 10 years as a bit player, you know, all the way back to Raiders of the Lost Ark. He overplays Angel, but it's still a pretty classic role and quite enjoyable. And that, and then Graham Greene is Joseph. And I know it's a little bit too easy, a little bit too on the nose that movie casters go to Graham Greene whenever they need an Indian chief or a wise native type, He's sort of, it's an unfortunate example of the whitewashing in Hollywood that not only oftentimes are roles not given to those who are deserving, but oftentimes they go to the same well over and over and over again. But let me say, Graham Greene is great. He is great. Right, this year, Wind River, he knocked that out of the park. He was so good in that movie. He is wonderful as Joseph. He is hilarious as Joseph. And among the very few clips I was able to find of Maverick were Joseph and Maverick scenes. So I don't know, maybe Septum will put a clip in here. I'll hold it over here so there's, yeah. Or maybe not. I wanted to find some good Annabelle ones. One of my favorite running themes in the movie is how Maverick is always poking fun at Annabelle's thieving. And I wanted to do a supercut of all of those. The best I could find is the last one, where minor spoiler, he knocks her out of the tournament. But that scene is wonderful, and I really hope Septum will play it right here. Okay. If only because that last little quip is one of the best one-liner rejoinders in movie history. Where he's like, well, it shouldn't be too hard. I just love that. Love that. And if Septum did not play the clip, you'll have to watch the movie so I know what I'm talking about. Right? And I want to wrap it up here. One of the reasons why I wanted to retake this is that the original version was twice this length. So I'm going to try real quick to make one last little observation, which is Septum had actually never seen Maverick, strangely enough. We used to do a thing that we called the movie game, where we would try to show each other movies that were in our collection that the other had not seen and did not own. We both have plenty of films, and it's easy enough to do that. Problem is, it's been 4 or 5 years since we've really been able to do that reliably. I guess we probably do it once every 3 or 4 months, which kind of sucks, but hopefully we'll get back to eventually at least once every couple weeks, I hope. But in the meantime, we also had time back in the day, to show each other television. And one that he had decided, rightly so, that it was past time for me to see was the anime classic Cowboy Bebop. Shinichiro Watanabe's space opera, western, film noir, etc., etc. You pick a genre, it fits for the series. It's wonderful. It is. And near the end of the series, there's a movie called Knocking on Heaven's Door. And Septum decided that at the end of the series, he'd show me the movie for the movie game. And by the time we got to it, I had the perfect film to pair with it, Maverick. But this film, the reason why is Faye Valentine, cutie on that side, is cut from the exact same cloth as Annabelle Bransford. Not only that, Dixie Cousins from Briscoe County Jr. The three are so similar in a lot of ways, and so different in a lot of ways, but they are cut from the same archetypal cloth. And I actually created a character, Connie Bransford, who, for the One Piece game I was playing at the time, who was drawn from that well. And that's a long and complicated story that I'm not going to get into right now, but suffice it to say, I'm proud of Connie. That is a character that her fate in the game is not her final fate. Let's put it that way. But those three really lit a fire in me in terms of that particular character archetype. And I think that the fact that Annabelle and Dixie were so part of my psyche is why I took to Faye so quickly, I think. But at any rate, Maverick is not flawless. You know, it does get a little silly at a time. Some of the roles are a little bit overplayed. Even though almost everything about it is top notch, almost everything about it is brilliant, but it's still not the most original story. And that might be why it didn't get more buzz. Even though the screenplay is phenomenally well written, it hits all the right beats, and nothing is unpredictable. Really, I could have told you the entire plot and none of it would have been a spoiler. It's that kind of movie. It goes where you think it's going to go. But the fun is how you get there. So, at any rate, when it all comes down to it, Maverick gets a 9 from me. It really does. It is one of the best films of '94. It's probably not as good as, probably not quite Shawshank Redemption. And I'm not really sure that I would put it on the same level as even Pulp Fiction, but it's close. It's really close. And I think the film that won that year was Forrest Gump, and yeah, it's really close. It's about the same level. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this take on the series. I did manage to I did manage to get a little shorter than before. Like I said, if you guys have any thoughts, comments, ideas, ways that I could definitely punch this up a little bit, make it more exciting, what have you. Since I'm currently relying on Septum to do the editing, it's not going to be quite as much personal touch on that as it could be. But, you know, it's a start. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. And stay tuned for for other ones that I wish to share. In the meantime, have fun and happy viewing.